obvious, the quarterbacks that move out of the pocket are a little bit of a concern, but we saw that in week one. We made our adjustments, both schematically and just philosophically. So I think we're going to be a little bit more prepared for that element of the game in terms of, how we call the game, how we approach that player, and obviously, each player is different. The quarterback for Cincinnati had really a history of being a runner, and when you watch number 19, he is a pro-style drop-back quarterback with enough athleticism to get out of there, but he wants to be a pro quarterback that's going to sit in the pocket and throw the football and make reads. So similar players, but different in their own way.
How much of his run is more scramble versus, say, design run?
I had 2 design runs. 7 of them were undesigned. I could be wrong. I'm not in their offensive meetings, but it looked to me like 6 or 7 of those runs were him taking off after undisciplined pass rush lanes or a play breaking down, which that's just standard operating procedure. Most quarterbacks are going to scramble in those situations. He obviously had that quarterback counter where he scored a touchdown, and then I think he had a zone read where he pulled it and the defensive end tackled him. Other than that, it was him making some plays with his feet outside of the framework.
What do you see from their guys on the outside? Your DBs have been so good at containing really anything down the field. How do Michigan's wideouts stack up with what you've seen so far this year?
I think they have a nice collection of guys, whether it's number 1, number 0, number 4. They're tight ends, 17, 44. They all present some problems for us, both on the inside and the outside. We're stepping into Big Ten play, no disrespect to the previous teams we've played, but the competition level is going to increase. We understand that. The challenges are going to increase, but our approach isn't going to change. We feel like we have a strength in the secondary, and ultimately, at the end of the game on Saturday, our ability to match up with those players is going to have some type of outlet, some type of impact on the outcome of the game.
Is that secondary? I mean, it's statistically lights out. Is it playing about like you expected this year? Is this about what you envisioned?
That's what we'd hoped. When I got here last year, I know I was a secondary coach last year, but there were different systematically. There was a lot of how they were coached in the past was look at the quarterback, have their eyes in the backfield, see a lot, and that's how they approached it. And it took some time for me to adjust that. And then obviously, as I took over as coordinator, my background in coaching the secondary is to take a very collective and disciplined, eye-disciplined approach. When we're playing man coverage, we're looking at our man. When we're playing match coverage, we're looking at our match. Like, we're not looking at the quarterback. In order to defend the pass, you have to defend the receivers, and the quarterback comes second. So I think that those guys have embraced that. They've had more time on task. That just comes with time being around me, and Coach Addison's doing a good job of coaching it the way I want it coached. So, and then obviously the athlete of the players has continued to improve. I think we've got 3 really good corners, that can match up, that have shown they can match up. We have safeties that can cover. We have linebackers that can cover too. I don't think that can be discounted. The teams have tried to leak running backs out, tight ends out, whether it's Javen Wright or Vincent Shavers or whoever it's been. Like, our matchups have not just been on that corner. We've been doing a pretty good job of matching up with whoever they've been sending out there. So, and that's the key, is making sure it really comes down to eye discipline and execution within the coverage systems, and then having enough variety in your coverage systems to confuse the quarterback.
When did you see your defensive backs start to pick up what you were asking? Was it in the spring or was it in training camp?
I think it was probably a combination. It's just when I took over, one of the number one things when I talked to Matt is we're going to improve our eye discipline, and we're going to improve our just overall discipline in coverage. That's been the strength of my career. That's always what I've been able to do, and that's what I believe in. So over time, that just has happened, and you just demand that. You don't accept anything less. And when guys have their eyes in the backfield when they're supposed to have their eyes on their man, that's when you give up explosive plays. When your eyes are in the backfield and they're supposed to be on your match, that's when you give up explosive plays. So it's just a constant hammering of making sure you know where your eyes are at the beginning of play, as the play continues, and then through the play, because there tends to be a tendency, like, these gurus out there will tell you got to look for the ball, you got to get interceptions to get paid. Well, if your guy doesn't catch the ball, then you're going to get paid.
How much did Addison's philosophical style of defense, and also Phil Snow, since they've both been coordinators, How much of that was on the same page or similar to what you brought into this program? And then how much did the two or three of you have to, kind of mesh and get on the same page, similar to what you and Tony did last year?
I would say that they have had a good impact on what we're doing. And, Phil Snow obviously is a longtime coordinator that I use as a resource relative to more big picture things. How does this look? What do you think about that? Do you have any general concerns, self-scout oriented? But as far as what we're doing on defense, we're doing what we think is best as we move forward. And then Addison's just been a great addition in terms of, he's been a perfect guy for me to work with. Our personalities are very different, but that is what I was looking for, more so somebody that can kind of bounce off of me as opposed to doing it exactly like I ask. And he's been good in that regard and been able to communicate the message to the room that I wanted to continue.
So like the play against maybe like the USC game last year where they hit the big one, was that an example of guys watching the quarterback instead of watching their man?
You're talking about the deep over route on the crossing route? Maybe. But that's the best.
What have you seen just from their running game and how they'll challenge you? And are they pretty similar to what they have been the previous years when Harbaugh was there, or have they kind of changed up how they attack the run game?
Yeah, they present a lot of problems in the run game formationally. The biggest thing is their back is legit. Number 22 is a good, strong runner that breaks tackles. He runs hard, runs physical. They present you with problems formationally, not only just how they formation the run game, whether they're putting extra bodies or big surfaces or all of their motions that are attached to the run game. And then the running back sees it, so he can find his creases. If you look at their explosives through the year, I think already their running back, number 22, has 6 or 7 runs over 20 yards that have had huge impacts on the games. Mexico game broke a couple runs that kind of broke the game open. Had a 75-yard run against Oklahoma that really was the majority of their offense. So their run game and then their play actions and their bootlegs off the run game are their bread and butter. That's a pro-style offense that's going to set you up with trying to force you to maximize your box count to defend the run so that they can take some shots over the top of you. And we've got to do a good job of defending that run game, playing with good eye discipline so nobody can get behind us and we don't give up any explosive plays in the run game, but also in the pass game because we're overcommitting to the run.
I know the competition goes up, but have you seen the usefulness for this D-line the last couple of weeks just in the day-to-day of getting better?
Yeah, I think that, when I stand up here and say that the heart and soul of your defense is your D-line, I believe that. And so we have to, it's great that we have the luxury of having the secondary players that we have that can hold up on the outside, but how this defense goes is going to be dictated by how well our front plays, both in terms of how they play and the impact that they have on the game. So part of that is the effort, the physicality, the execution, but also as part of it is we've got to help them with how we're designing the movements, how we're designing the fronts, how we're attacking what we think the weaknesses of their offense are. We're not just going out there and saying, hey, this is what we do and we hope it works. We have a very pointed approach to the players we're attacking on their offense. It's not just about, the secondary, the skill players. Like there's certain players on everybody's offensive line that we want to go after. So we have to go do a good job of identifying those people and executing those systems and then getting our D-line to continue just to believe in themselves with their level of physicality and how much they can impact the game. And I think you're starting to see that.
You guys have also scored points on defense each of the last 2 weeks, and I think Matt mentioned a stat the other day, like elite teams tend to score like 8 to 10 times a year or something on defense. Have you seen guys embrace that part too, not just getting stops, but changing the game like that?
Well, the whole point of defense is getting the ball back to the offense as quickly as possible. So you're trying to get a 3 and out, you're trying to get a takeaway, or you're trying to take away the ball and score. So anytime you can do that, whether it's the safety against Akron or whether it's the scoop and score touchdown last week, we have a sign on our wall up there. There's 1998 maybe it was, Florida State scored 12 defensive touchdowns, which is incredible. And I think in 2000 and at one point the Huskers had 10, which is insane. 10 defensive touchdowns. So, I think anytime we can impact the game in that way, whether it's taking the ball away and giving our offense a short field like we did in the Cincinnati game, where it's scoring on defense like we have in the previous 2 games, our job is to impact the game in any way we can, and we have to put pressure on the other team's offense to force them into mistakes, and then we got to capitalize on those mistakes.
Speaking of the scoop and score, how fired up were you for Williams to get that touchdown?
Yeah, that was great, and he made it look so natural. He's such a great athlete. He picked the ball up like it was a little orange, his giant hands, and then he was just kind of casually jogging down. And I'm like, yo, bro, you better pick it up. That guy's going to – I asked him if he knew who Leon Lett was, because obviously there's that famous clip from way back when, and he looked at me like, Leon Lett? Who are you talking about, bro? But that just shows him that was effortless in terms of, obviously, a great job by Riley. We practice that every single day. Every Tuesday and Wednesday we practice taking the ball away from the quarterback as a blitzer, as a pass rusher. Riley executed that to perfection. And then we work on scooping and scoring with Coach Snow. He has a scoop and score drill where everybody goes through it as a circuit, and Will executed that, flawlessly. So excited for anybody that makes a big play like that, because I asked them when they do that to make you feel good, and they all say yes. So I'm trying to get them to do that as much as possible so they can feel better. And so can I.
With Underwood, how much more creative can you get?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
How much more creative can you get going against a true freshman quarterback that has only 3 games under his belt?
Experience is key in football. Experience is key in life. So the more he sees in games, the better he's going to be down the line. It's our job. We've got to stop the run and put them into advantage situations for us where we can then affect him. If they're in advantage situations, 1st and 10, 2nd and 5, 3rd and 3, the whole game, that's an easy game plan, an easier game plan for a quarterback to execute. But if we're stopping the run, putting him behind the chains, forcing him to play quarterback in a drop back system, then that'll allow us to maybe do some more things to affect him and put some pressure on their offense and put some pressure on him. But it all starts with stopping the run and establishing that early in the week and early in the ball game so that we can get a feel for how this game's going to be played.